In this video, I'm going to show you how you can create a multi-step form in Bubble, just like this one, in just a few minutes. Before we start, I just wanted to let you know that if you want to save time and not have to do everything by yourself in Bubble, you can check out Nocodable Components UI library for Bubble. This is my library, and you will find more than 300 fully responsive components for Bubble. Among them, you will find some multi-step form that you can simply copy and then paste to your app. Everything is already built in, everything is fully responsive and ready to be plugged into your app and to be used. So if you want to check this library, feel free to check the link in the description of this video. Okay, so let's get started. First, I'm going to create a new page for this tutorial. If you already have a page on which you want to add this form, you can do so. You can also put it in a pop-up, a floating group, or anything else. We are simply going to create a new group, so you can put it anywhere you'd like. So I'm on my new page. First thing I'm going to do is to set the container layout of my page to column. I'm going to add a first group that will act as the main container of our form, of our page. So let's call it main container, and I'm going to add some max widths just to be able to see what I'm doing. You don't necessarily have to do this, it's just for me to be able to build correctly in Bubble. I'm going to add some padding as well, 48 top and 48 bottom. There we go. Alright, so into this, I'm going to add another group which will be the form container. So this is the group that will hold the form and every element that we have inside this form. So this is the group that you will use and that you can place into any element in your Bubble app that you want. So I'm going to call it form container. And we will see later on if we need some padding, etc. So if we take a look at the Figma design that you can find in the description, this is a free Figma design I found on the Figma community, so feel free to take a look. We can see that we have some simple steps. This is written in Portuguese, but we will be doing in English, obviously. So we have 3 steps, but you can do any number of steps you like. And then we have a button which must say back, and then we have some action button to continue, etc. So basically we are going to do 3 very simple steps, so some inputs into a group, and we will also have some steps indicator to be able to display at which step the user is at. So first we are going to create our form container. So as you can see, there is a background with a border color, etc. So we are going to do this just to see what we are working with. So on my form container, I'm going to add a background color. I'm going to add some border as well. I have some styles in my app, so I can choose secondary 200. I'm going to add some roundness to it, and also I'm going to add a shadow. Let's say 0, 1, 2, and 0, and I'm going to set it to 10% in full black. This usually does the trick. Okay, it's not too bad. I'm going to add some padding inside of the form container. There we go. And now we can move on. So what we are going to do is to first create all the tabs, all the steps that we are going to use in this form. So basically, what we are going to do is that we are going to create a first group with the input for the first step, another group for the second step, etc., etc., and you will repeat this for as many steps as you want to display. So let's add our first group, and I'm going to rename it. This is very important to name correctly your step for later. Step 1, and I'm going to say user info, for example. And there we go. So I can go ahead and add my input into this. So I'm going to add the first group. This will be, for example, group first name. This is set to colon. So I'm going to add my input label. This will say first name. Let's say 14 pt black medium usually does fine. I'm going to add an input just under it. Put first name. There we go. I'm going to style it. Alright, it's already styled. 48. I'm okay with that. I'm going to remove the min widths. Let's say 40 pixels. And I'm going to add some gap between the label and the input. And there we go. This one is not. Oop, there we go. I'm going to remove that. I'm going to use some secondary 400 maybe. Yep, that's a bit better. All right, so I have my first name. I'm going to duplicate it and really create some basic inputs for the user identity. So I'm going to duplicate first name. I'm going to rename everything, into last name. So last name and the label. Oops, there we go, last name. Now I'm going to group this into a row container, just so they are side by side horizontally. And I'm going to add some gap in column and in row. There we go. And finally, I'm going to add some min widths onto my groups, just so that they can move on to the next line when the screen gets too narrow. This is to make them responsive. And I'm going to rename this as well, first name plus last name. All right, so that's our first line. I'm going to add another input into my group step 1. So I've copied the group first name and I'm going to paste it just under it. I'm going to say email, for example. john.doe@gmail.com. I'm going to set the input style to input format style to email. Input email. There we go. I'm going to add some gap between my inputs. Let's say 16. And we can add another input. Maybe not. Yeah, we are going to add another input, which will be the password. I'm going to add some placeholder for this. Input password. There we go. All right, so we have our first group, which will be the basic user identification. This is just in order for the first step to create the user account, let's say. I'm just going to change a bit the max width, that I have here. It's a bit too wide for a form. Oops. Let's say 780. There we go. So we have our step 1. Now, what we can do is simply duplicate the step 1 tab, and this will create our step 2. Step 2, let's say that we want to collect some company information for the user. So we are going to say company name. I'm going to actually remove this one and put it on a single line. Company name, let's say company sector. We can duplicate this, and I'm going to say number of employees. There we go. Number of employees. We can say address, headquarters address. For example, you can put any information you'd like. That doesn't really matter. So step 2, there we go. And I'm going to say step 3. Let's say that we do a simple user survey. How did you hear about us? Well, let's say we're going to do that. I don't have any inspiration, so we'll have a single input for this one. That will be step 3. All right. So there we go. So we have our basic tab. Now we are going to add our button and our steps indicator, and then we will be wiring everything up and just adding some logic for the navigation, and then we'll be good to go. So let's start by adding our buttons. So this will be our continue button and our back button, obviously. So we are going to add a group into our form container, and I'm going to send it to be the last group into this container. I'm going to add some gap as well between everything. So this will be in group action buttons. I'm going to set it to row because I want the buttons to be next to each other horizontally. And I'm going to add first button. I'm going to select secondary large, for example. I'm going to duplicate it using command plus D. And I'm going to say primary large. There we go. So the first one will say continue, and this one will say back. Actually, I'm going to make them the same roundness, so let's say 6 pixels. There we go. All right, so now I want to space them evenly at each end of my group. So I'm going to select space between. This way, one is on the left, the other is on the right. And what I'm going to do as well is I'm going to add a simple divider, a simple line between the buttons, between the buttons and the input. So I'm going to add a shape, a basic shape. I'm going to uncheck fixed width. This way, it takes the full width of a container. I'm going to make it 1 pixel of height, and I'm going to change the color of it. I'm going to, let's say, yep, this one is a bit too dark, so I'm going to say secondary 100. This should do the trick. Yeah, it's not too bad. All right, so that's it for our buttons. Now we can move on to the steps indicator. So if we take a look at our Figma, we can see that it's 3 simple groups in a group. So an icon on the left with a number in the place of the icon when we are not on the current step, and basically just the title of the step, and we repeat that 3 times with a few icons in between them. So let's get started. I'm going to add another group into our container, just on top of this. This group will be named steps indicator. The layout will be row because the elements are placed next to each other horizontally. I'm going to add some gap between them, let's say 16 pixels, and I'm going to add another group, which will be step 1 indicator. Same as the others, this will be a row, let's say 10 of gap, and I'm simply going to add first group, which will be the circle holding either an icon or the number. I'm just going to check the size. This is 28 by 28. So this I can make it a fixed width because it will always stay the same width and height. I'm going to make it round. There we go. Apply a background. I'm going to use my app primary color, so primary 500. Which is the style I created, and in container layout I'm going to select align to parent because this will enable me to display either an icon and to place it properly. So when the step is completed, we want to display a check. I'm going to select bold. I like to use phosphor, and this will be white, and I'm going to remove the padding, and I'm going to decrease the size of the icon. Let's say 26, a bit less, 22 maybe. Yeah. And now I can center the icon in my group, and it's behaving correctly. Now I'm going to hide this icon for now because this icon will be displayed only when the user has completed the steps. So instead I'm going to add a number, a text. So this will be 1. I'm going to make it 14 pt black bold, and I'm just going to put it in white. And same as the icon, I can center it and maybe make it a little bit bigger. Yep, that should do. Yep, it's fine. So now I only have to add my text. Step 1 will be user. I'm going to make it 18 pixel black semi-bold. That should do the trick. There we go. And now we have our first group. I can hit fit width to content, and I'm going to remove the min height as well, just so that it only takes the space it needs. I'm going to remove the fit height to content as well on the steps indicator. Now what I can do now is to add an icon which will be a caret. So let's put it in bold. There we go. And let's put it in black. I'm going to remove as well the padding. There is some padding by default. I'm going to make it 24 by 24 maybe. No, a bit less. 18. There we go. And that's not too bad. I think it's alright. Alright, and now we can duplicate everything. So I'm going to duplicate my step 1. I'm going to put it just after my caret. Same for this one. Oops, sorry. Same for this one. And I'm going to duplicate this icon. There we go. And now what I can do is simply use the space between options so that everything is spaced evenly, or else I can center them if I want to. I think it's better if I center them. It's a bit clearer. What I'm going to do as well is that I'm going to duplicate the divider we created earlier, just so that I can send it to the top, and then just after the steps, and then we have our steps element. I'm just going to rename this one into step 2, and I'm going to modify the number as well. This one will be step 3. I'm going to change the number as well. There we go. And now we can see company. And now we can rename this into survey. And there we go. So we have our steps indicator. Just after that, we will be working on the conditionals to display or not the icon that indicate that the steps was completed. But we have our UI. We can move on to display the correct tab, so making the navigation system. Now that we have our UI, we are going to be working on the navigation system. Basically, what we want to do is to track the step number that the user is at. So if he's at step 2, we want to be able to retrieve the step number he is currently at. And then based on that, we want to display the correct tab. So if we are at step 2, we want to display step 2, obviously. The way to do that, one of the ways to do that is to use a custom state that we are going to store somewhere on the page. I like to do it on the form container. This way, if you move it somewhere else, you will still have the custom state on the element so that you can copy it. So what we are going to do is to create a custom state that will track the current step. And then based on that, we are going to display, to show the corresponding tab. Basically, that's it. So I'm going to add a custom state to my group form container. Add a new custom state. I'm going to call it current step. Number, basic type, sorry, the state type is a number. And by default, I'm going to put the default value 1 so that when the page is loaded, the tab that will be shown is the tab 1. All right. So right now, we could be adding a conditional on each group saying that when form container or custom state current step is 1, and we could hard code the 1 into this, then we could say this element is visible. That would work, but we will have to create a different conditional for each group. What I like to do, don't have necessarily to do that, but I think this is a good practice, is to set a type of content on each group. So I'm going to set it to a number and assign to them the step number that corresponds to this tab. So for step 1, I'm going to make in data source in data source 1. For step 2, number data source 2. And for step 3, I just have to take it here, number and step 3. Why do I do that? Because this way, I simply have to create this conditional, so group form container current step is, and then instead of hard coding 1, I could say this group number. And this way, all I have to do is to copy this condition and paste it as is. I don't need to change anything on the other groups. And this is way easier to maintain, and you don't have, if you modify the steps order, etc., you don't have to modify all the conditional that you have to do. You simply have to modify the data source. So if I want the step 3 to become step 2, I simply have to modify 2, and then in the step 2, I can simply modify the step 3, and this will automatically work. So that's the good point with this method. Just going to get up data source 3. And now what we want to do is to hide this element by default. So basically, we want this element to not be loaded on page load, not be visible on page load, and we want to show them only when we are on the correct step. So how do we do that? You select the group and you go into each group and you uncheck, this element is visible on page load so that they are hidden by default. And you don't forget to check collapse when hidden, just so that they don't take any space when they are hidden. And let's do the same for the other groups. And step 3, same. This element is visible on page load. So right now, if we hit preview, we can see that I only see step 1. So that's good. And my buttons are not connected to our flow at this point, but if the custom state is set to 2, I will only see the step 2, and that's how we work. So let's move on to now adding some workflow to be able to navigate between our tabs. So now that we have our conditional working and our custom state ready to be used, what we can do is work on the navigation for the button. So basically, when we move on to the next step, we want to update our custom state to increase its value by 1. That's it. And when we go back, we want the custom state to decrease its value by 1 as well. So I'm going to select continue, sorry. I wrote it in French. There we go. Continue. And now I'm going to add an action, and this action will be set state of an element, because we are going to modify the custom state we created earlier. My custom state was added to the group form container, so this is the element on which you created the custom state, and my custom state is current step. So what I can do now is reference again the same custom state, so group form container current step, and I'm going to add 1 to this custom state, basically. So if the current step, i.e. the custom state that we have, is 1, this workflow will set it to 2. That's basically it. And for the back button, we are going to add another workflow, and we are going to set state of an element, same as this, and we are going to take our form container, our custom state current step, and once again we are going to reference the current step, but this time we are going to say -1. There we go. So if we hit preview to check our app, if I click on continue, we can see that it's working well, and I can navigate between tabs. However, right now, if I click back when I'm on the first step, right now the custom state is set to 0, so anything, nothing happens, nothing displays, sorry. And same, if I go to continue and in the step 3, I continue again, the current step custom state is now 4, so nothing displays. So what I need to do now is to add some blocking event on this custom state, just to make sure that the user cannot go to a value it shouldn't be possible to do. So what I can do is simply the button back, I'm going to hide it when the custom state is set to 1. So when form container current step is 1, I'm going to make this element not visible. And what I want to do for this one, because we are in space between for the layout of this group, I don't want this one to collapse when it is hidden, because if it does, my continue button will go to the left. So I don't want that. So the solution to that is simply to uncheck collapse when hidden. This way, if I hide it, it will stay there. It will just not be visible. And this button will stay on the right. There we go. And now for the button continue, what we want to do on the last action, obviously, in most cases, will be to go to another page. So what we can do is simply add conditional on this workflow, saying that when form container current step is not the last step of your workflow, so in this case 3, then we can copy this element, or at least create a new one. So I'm going to just copy this workflow, copy and paste, and we are going to say that now when the user clicks the continue button and the current step is the last step of our workflow, in this case 3, then you can perform any action you like. In most cases, you will go to another page, so let's say go to page dashboard. This way, when the current step is 3, you will go to a page dashboard. So if I take a look at our preview, you can see that now I'm on the first step, the back button is not displaying. If I go to the following step, it is displaying now, and it is working. I can go to the previous step. And if I'm on the step 3 and I hit continue, we can see that now I'm taken to another page, which is the dashboard in this case. So our navigation system is working correctly. Now we can move on to the steps indicator, and we are going to see how simple it is to display the current step and modify the icon or the number depending on the steps on the step we are on. So if we take a look at our Figma, we can see that we have 3 different states for our steps indicator. First one is the one that happens when the step of this step indicator is the current step. So if the step is 1 and the current step is 1, this will display like this. If the step of this step indicator is higher than the one that we are currently on, then it will display in gray like this. So this will be the default state. And then we have another one, which is the step when it's completed. So basically the current step here is higher than this one. So that's basically it. So we need to add two conditional. We need to make a default state. So that's how it will appear by default. And then depending on the state on the current step, it will display like this or like this. All right. So I'm just going to take this color, base gray 200. All right. So we are going to modify the default appearance of the steps indicator. So by default, they will appear in gray, and then we are going to modify their design based on the current step. So I'm going to put all the text in gray like this. I'm going to put this one in gray as well. There we go. And I'm going to modify the background color of this one. Maybe this one? Yeah, that will do. All right. So this is the default state of our steps. Now we want to modify them depending on if they are on the current step or lower than the current step. So first conditional, form container, which is the element or custom state is attached to. Form container current step is 1. So in this case, this one. Actually, we are going to make something a little bit smarter. We are going to use, same as we did with the tab, the type of content of this group, so number, and this one will be 1. Same here, type of content number. This one will be 2, just so that we can use the same conditional on each one of this group. So number, and this one will be 3. There we go. So right now, what I can do is this text, parent group number. So this says that group form current step is parent group number, and in this case, since I am in the first group, the parent group number here is 1. So when this is the case, I'm going to modify the font color, and I'm going to set it to this one. So now I can simply copy this condition and apply it to the other text. This is possible because each group has a parent group number that is set to the proper value. We can do the same on this one, but we have to do something first. Because we set the type of content number on the parent group, we need to make sure that each group in this group has the type of content number, and in this case, this will be parent group number. I'm going to make the same here. Number, parent group number. Yep, number, parent group number. There we go. And now I can simply add a conditioner here. That will be the same than the one we added on our text. There we go. And now what I can do is add another condition on the circles to modify the background color. So when group form container current step is parent group number, I'm going to modify the background color, and I'm going to set it to my primary color, which is primary 500. So I can copy this condition and I can paste it. There we go. So now if we hit preview, we can see that, well, I should have put it in white, but we can see that our conditional are being triggered correctly. There we go. So now we just have to create the conditional that will trigger when the steps has previously been completed, and we will have a working multi-step form. I'm just going to modify the color here. This will be better in white. There we go. And there we go. So now what we can do is add another conditional that will be form container, so still or custom state, is less than, is higher than parent group number. So when parent group number is less than our custom C. In this case, we want the text to display, sorry, I lost it, like this, so in black as well, but we are mostly going to modify this one. So the text will be displayed in black. Oops, sorry, font color. There we go. I'm going to copy this condition, and I'm going to modify the background color of this. So background color, there we go. I'm going to set it to success like this, and as we did earlier, we are going to hide this text and instead display our check icon. So all I need to do is to add my conditional, add this element is visible, and uncheck this, and I can do the opposite on this one. This element is visible, and because this one is hidden by default, when it will be made visible like this. So what I can do is repeat this conditional. So I'm going to copy the one on the circle. There we go. I'm going to copy the one on the text as well to make it disappear. I'm going to up display my icons. I'm going to up get this conditional on my icons. There we go. And I don't remember. Yeah, I need this one as well. And there we go. I think we're good. So if we check our preview, there we go. We can see that now the step goes to completed, and same for the second one. And there we go. And there you go. Now you know how to make a multi-step form in Bubble. This is pretty handy and can be useful for a sign-up form, a quote request form, or any other form that will be better off in multiple steps. I hope you liked this video. If you did, don't forget to like and to subscribe, and I see you for another one.